All right, so welcome everyone. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a story you probably know, but maybe not in this way.
Yeah.
It's the story of David and Jonathan.
Mm,
And, you know, obviously you probably know this from the Bible, specifically 1 Samuel chapter 20.
that's right.
But we're not just going to rehash the Sunday school version here, right?
Yeah.
We really want to unpack what this story can teach us today, even thousands of years later.
Absolutely. It's a story about friendship, loyalty, faith.
Yeah, like some timeless themes for sure.
Timeless.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty,
Okay.
let's just set the stage for anyone who may not know every detail of this story.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm talking about the kingdom of Israel. King Saul is on the throne,
Right.
and he's got this young warrior, David,
So,
who is kind of a rock star.
yeah, a rising star, literally.
Right. He just took down Goliath. He's super popular.
Yeah, he's got the charisma.
He's got the charisma. He's got the skills.
Uh-huh.
And Saul is, well, let's just say he's not handling it very well.
No, not at all.
In fact, he's consumed by jealousy.
Yeah, it's eating him up.
And it's going to lead him down a very dark path. Basically, he wants David dead.
A classic tale, unfortunately.
Like power, jealousy, it's a recipe for disaster.
It is.
And this is where David's friendship with Jonathan, Saul's own son, becomes absolutely crucial.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
So imagine the tension. David, fearing for his life, turns to his best friend.
Who just happens to be the son of the guy who wants him dead.
Talk about a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Jonathan, he's not like his father.
No, he's cut from a different cloth.
He sees the good in David. He believes in him.
He trusts him.
He trusts him. And that trust is going to be tested like you wouldn't believe.
And that's what's so powerful about this story. It's a story about loyalty. It's about choosing what's right, even when it means defying your own family.
Yeah, it makes you think about where your own loyalties lie, right?
Absolutely.
Like, who would you stand up for, even if it meant risking everything?
Yeah, it's a deep question.
So, David and Jonathan, they know they have to figure out how dangerous Saul really is.
Mm-hmm.
And they come up with this plan, this clever little scheme. David's going to skip a big feast, the new moon feast.
Okay.
And if Saul reacts badly, well, they'll know it's time to get out of Dodge.
Yeah, that's like a test.
A test, exactly.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, Saul completely loses it.
As expected.
He throws a spear at Jonathan, his own son, for defending David.
Yeah, talk about a bad temper.
It shows just how far gone Saul is and how much danger David is really in.
Yeah, no more playing around.
Right. This is serious stuff now.
Definitely.
And it also highlights Jonathan's courage. I mean, he stood up to his dad, the king.
He did. He stood his ground.
That takes guts.
Absolutely.
So now they know they got to be really careful. Can't exactly talk openly with Saul on a rampage.
Right.
So they come up with this ingenious communication system. They use arrows.
Arrows, that's pretty clever.
Right. Brilliant. Jonathan's going to shoot these arrows near a prearranged spot. Arrows on one side of the spot, safe. Arrows beyond the spot. David better run.
Like a secret code.
It is a secret code. Talk about thinking outside the box.
I mean, can you imagine the tension?
I know, right? Waiting for those arrows, your life hanging in the balance.
It's incredible.
And then the moment of truth arrives. David has to flee.
Yeah.
And they have this heart-wrenching goodbye.
It's
The
powerful.
Bible says they wept together until David exceeded. Just imagine the emotion.
It shows the depth of their bond.
It really does. It's more than friendship. It's a covenant, a sacred promise
They're committing to each other no matter what.
through thick and thin.
It's a powerful scene.
It really is. I mean, seriously, you can really feel the weight of that moment, right?
You can.
But let's take a step back for a second and really think about this.
Okay.
What can we learn from this ancient story? What does it have to say to us today, thousands of years later?
Where I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is Jonathan's loyalty. I mean, he's willing to risk everything. His family, his position, even his life.
Right.
To protect his friend, to stand by him.
It's amazing.
And it really makes you think, right, what does loyalty mean in our world today?
What does it mean? Yeah.
Do we have those kinds of friends, those ride or die relationships?
Yeah. Are we that kind of friend to others?
Yeah, are we willing to put ourselves on the line for someone we care about?
And it's not just about loyalty to a person, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about loyalty to what's right.
Exactly.
Jonathan saw the injustice of what his father was doing, and he chose to oppose it,
Mm-hmm. He took a stand,
even though it meant going against his own family.
even though it was hard.
And that takes a lot of courage.
It does. A lot of courage.
And it's a good reminder for all of us
It is.
that sometimes we have to stand up for what we believe in,
Mm-hmm.
even when it's difficult.
Even when it's scary.
even when it's scary.
And there's another layer to the story that I find really fascinating.
What's that?
It's the faith element.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Jonathan, he recognizes that David is destined for greatness, that it's part of God's plan.
Right, and that his own family's claim to the throne is, well, it's being set aside.
Exactly, and that must have been incredibly difficult to accept.
I can't even imagine.
But his faith gives him the strength to put aside his own ambitions.
And trust in something bigger.
Yeah, trust in God's plan.
And I think that's something we can all learn from.
I agree.
Sometimes we have to let go of our own ego, our own desires.
And trust that things will work out the way they're supposed to.
Even if we don't understand it at the time.
Even if it doesn't make sense.
And one more thing that really strikes me of this story is the communication.
The arrows.
Yeah, the arrows. I mean, talk about creative problem solving.
Right. Using arrows as coded messages.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant!
And it reminds us that even in difficult situations, even when we can't speak openly,
there are ways to communicate.
we just have to be creative.
We have to think outside the box.
And make sure our message is clear.
And, that's still so relevant today.
It is.
We have all these different ways to communicate now, right?
Social media, text, email.
But are we really communicating effectively?
That's the question.
Are we taking the time to listen, to understand?
To be clear.
To be clear.
So much to think about from this story.
A lot to unpack.
I mean, it's almost like if David and Jonathan were around today, they'd be texting each other in code.
Right. Like, what would their emojis be?
I know, right? Instead of arrows, it'd be like, the fire emoji, the thinking face, the prayer hands.
I love it. But I think the point is, even though the methods of communication have changed,
Yeah.
the core issues, the challenges they faced, they're still so relevant today.
It's true.
Loyalty, courage, faith, clear communication, those things never go out of style.
No, they don't.
And that's what makes this story so powerful. It transcends time.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the story of David and Jonathan, I guess the question is, what can we take away from all of this? What's the one thing our listeners should remember?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's about remembering that these ancient stories, they're not just dusty relics of the past.
No.
They're still alive. They still speak to us today.
They do.
And the story of David and Jonathan, it's a story about the power of human connection, about standing up for what you believe in, even when it's hard.
Even when it's scary.
Even when it's scary. And it's a reminder that no matter what challenges we face in our own lives, we can find strength in our faith, in our friendships, in our commitment to doing what's right.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
So to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe you'll even start leaving coded messages for your friends.
Maybe we all should.
It could be fun.
All right, everyone. Until next time, remember the power of true friendship, the courage to stand up for what's right, and the enduring strength of faith, however you define it.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
We'll see you back here soon for another deep dive.